Mr. Mark Kitchen, aka Hybrid Toy. How are we doing, good sir?
Hello, it's good. Yeah, I mean, I'm good.
It's good,
It's
you're
good,
good, it's
I'm
all
good.
good.
Everything's good. Yeah.
And also on my left, Mr. Fruity Sammer, aka Mr. Dave. How are we doing?
Yeah, good. Also good.
Also good, it's good, everything's good.
You're good, it's good.
we like it.
Are you okay?
Are you okay? So today we're looking at Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins. Came out in 1992. I think that was the Japanese release date, 1993 for EU. It was a Game Boy game. I think quite a popular Game Boy game. I'm not sure how many years after the first Super Mario Land it came out, but there are some clear upgrades with this game in terms of obviously Nintendo getting a hang of doing it. It was made by Nintendo R&D 1, which I think are basically known for doing the Mario games and some of the other stuff like that. But yeah, we're gonna talk about this little ditty of a game, and obviously the cool thing about the Game Boy games, they were very different from the console variants, so that you kind of get a bit of a weird one going on. Just overall thoughts then before we really dive into things, and just our experience with these games. Start with you, Mark. Like, I feel like this is a game we all played when we were younger at some point, but like, you know, what's your sort of earliest memories and things like that of it?
Yeah, so I played this, like, not when it came out, because I would have been like 3 or 4 or something, but probably in the late 90s, and then probably going back to it a bit in the early 2000s. So I haven't played it for like over 20 years, maybe nearer to 23, 24, 25 years, something like that. So yeah, very nostalgic playing it again, because I've just been this massive bit of time where I hadn't played it. I got a Game Boy basically to play Pokemon, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people
in
did,
like
didn't they?
98, whenever it was. Bought a few other games. I only had like 4 games for my Game Boy. So I had Pokemon Blue, Street Fighter 2, and Super Mario Land 1 and 2. So you end up just playing those same 4 games a lot. So I did play this quite a few times, and yeah, I got good memories of it, like good nostalgia for like that time. I didn't complete it. I remember the world map didn't complete it. I guess I probably got to the last level and maybe ran out of lives trying to do that or something. But yeah, I remember enjoying it, and yeah, just had my old brick of a Game Boy. I had the original, so I was playing it like, I was going to say black and white, but it's more like green and something. So yeah, and yeah, good memories of this game.
Yeah, for sure. Same for you, Dave, really. Like, you were saying earlier that you had like a Game Boy Pocket and played it on that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much it's like the same story, really. Got my Game Boy Pocket to play Pokemon Blue on. And I had this one. I can't remember if I actually owned the first one, if I just borrowed it from someone. But yeah, it would have been like 96, 97. Because I remember getting a Game Boy Color like later on for like the gold and silver and like, you know, later Pokemon games. So yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. I think I might have had the original Mario Bros on Game Boy, and then Pokemon Blue with this, probably some other random ones. I think I had like one of the Contra games on Game Boy. I think
it was on Game Boy. I can't remember.
There was like a shooting one as well.
Yeah.
I can't really place it. Not very memorable Game Boy games unless they're Pokemon, to be honest. I have memory. I probably had loads of them.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely Tetris. I had that.
Yeah, the classic. The classic, yeah.
Yeah, I played this a lot as a kid. I remember just surprising amount when we did it. But yeah, I haven't played this probably since the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, mine's a bit different because I was lucky enough to be given as a present for Christmas one year a Game Boy Color. So my only experience with the Game Boy beforehand was really what other people had and what I played then. And I had played it a little bit then, but it wasn't until much later when I had like my Game Boy Color and then started picking up older games and I actually played it. So I probably played this sort of like somewhere between 2000 and 2010. I can't remember the exact amount in there, but somewhere in there, probably nearer to 2010. At this point, you know, I'm buying older Game Boy games because they're cheaper and stuff.
Back when retro games were cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. Back when it was cheaper to do that. And you know, I played it on Game Boy Color, and I've played it on various different systems since then. For me, you know, obviously I love Mario games, so like anytime there was a Mario game that was a platformer, I was always interested in playing it. And I really liked the first Super Mario Land, which I did own. And then eventually played this properly. I either borrowed it, played it through properly, or eventually bought it. Yeah, and like everybody else, you know, having a Game Boy Color in that era, it was like about Pokemon really. And then you had the classics like Tetris and the Mario Lands, and Donkey Kong Land, and just there are certain games that just sort of like everybody had those games. So yeah,
they weren't like awful. Like most Game Boy games were.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there
like
that
shovelware
is
and
kind
stuff.
of not great, but yeah, I remember I think the reason why I remember this game so vividly was because the sprites were fucking massive. So it was kind of like, and the box art and stuff like that. It was one of those games that you kind of like when you play it, you're like, oh, this all sticks out. Everything's big. Everything's easy to sort of see on the screen. I think that's why it's been burnt in my memory all these years, because it's like there's a particular style to it. So that's kind of my earliest memories of it. So let's do the old what we liked about it, and we'll start with you, Mark. What were the things that we've just played this, we've gotten through the game. What were the things that you, having not played it for a while, first time in like 20 years, whatever? What are the things that you liked about revisiting this?
It's quite a wacky game. Some of the enemies are like
the cows,
are quite like random, like swimming cows and the little knife thing.
Oh, and the egg
with a knife in its head or something. Like just random little things like that. Like they're quite good, like enemy variety that makes it very interesting. Kind of not typically Mario.
No, definitely not.
You've obviously got your Goombas and your Koopas in there, but then there's like most of quite a lot of the time the enemies are like quite random.
It's a bear on a ball.
Yeah,
it's like
and
cannon.
It makes it quite interesting. Like you don't know what you're gonna face. So that's cool. I like that. The level variety is pretty good, I'd say. Overall.
Got the different lands, sort of. Like
different lands,
areas,
and there's like different like things going
zones
on in each one. Zones and stuff. You've got the space ones. You've got the kind of floaty air physics, and you've got the level with the levels with the kind of
tree sap
jump.
Is it sap?
Yeah, the tree sap level. Yeah,
or like in the whale and that. As well.
I know they're pretty basic. Simplicity of the boss fights.
Yeah,
I know they're probably not like. Probably people think they're a bit shit, but I actually quite like Sonic style bosses. I think we were saying, where you just kind of like go from one to the other side, and you make sure that you like jump up one side,
like the ramp kind of movement.
And that's kind of interesting as well, because I mean you're used to dealing with like Bowser Juniors or something, but all of them in this are like
they're all weird, aren't they?
Random things. So that's good. I quite like the map. One of the most things that sticks in my brain from being a kid is like I don't know, just
it's very Mario, isn't it, to have like a world map, like a world map to move around.
I think it's because like I played Super Mario Land 1 as well, and that doesn't have a map.
No.
So having this being like, we're going to like different areas, it was kind of like
gives you a sense of scale,
some kind of novelty.
It? It's like you've kind of got this scale. Like you're not like, it's not just like 1-1 dash. You go for a pipe on the next level. It's like here's the actual physical places to go and visit, and you're like, oh, okay, this is quite a big map for what the game is. I
like little additions, like the little, I don't know if you'd call it go as far as to call it a mini game, but the little things to get an item at the end of the level.
Yeah, I guess they are kind of mini games.
If you get the bell, then you get the opportunity to get the bonus stuff.
Yeah, it's like a bonus stage in it, I guess.
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah. I generally like. I think it's quite, like you said, quite large. Like
the large sprites
and
I
stuff.
think if you compare it to the first Super Mario Land game, it makes it a hell of a lot easier to see what the hell you're doing.
It's just quite as you would expect from a Mario game, quite light-hearted and kind of in your face and stuff, and makes it appealing.
For sure.
And I think that's all I can think of at the moment.
All right, Dave, I'll ask you the same question. What are the things that you liked about it?
I like the world map, like being able to do them in any order. Like
that is actually really cool. I
like how you can wander around, especially as a kid. I remember just like doing levels randomly,
go to one place,
like going back and forth, not like systematic.
I agree. The non-linearness of it is good.
Like the bonus level to get the power-ups and stuff. So when we saw that again now, I was like, oh yeah, I remember like getting the star and then killing all the Goombas to get like 1-ups and stuff. That's cool. I like the bonus, like the what they called that, the other exits, whatever you call them in Mario games.
Secret exits,
Like they're cool. I remember those levels being really quite fun. I like how everything's kind of loosely themed. Now it's not just like grass, desert, fire, ice. It's like, it's like a house. It's like stairs, and like you can see like the windows and stuff. And it's like, the Halloween place. It's all kind of spooky themed. Like the amount of like enemy sprites as well. It's probably just the same sprite, just like reskinned. But like it's quite impressive how it's like the yokai and like the ghosts and like the eggs with the swords and their heads and stuff. Like the witches and stuff, or in the Halloween one, and the space one, you got like all the aliens and the UFOs and stuff. I kind of like how everything's skinned. Like it kind of makes sense. Not on all of the stuff, obviously, because like the sea cows with like the mermaid tails and stuff's weird, but they are still water themed. So it's kind of like how everything's kind of like themed to each zone, and they're a bit different. Although the first level of the house and the tree is kind of similar. It's both just like generic-y outside with ants and stuff. But yeah, that's all kind of cool. I really like the design of Wario as well.
It's massive, isn't he, in this game?
I kind of prefer the weird like kind of demon goblin kind of Wario design before they made him look more just like a fat human. Like I kind of like the old Wario design. He looks really like menacing.
He looks the same in the next game where you actually play as him.
Yeah, like he looks really evil. Like I really kind of like the design of him, and like the big castle and stuff on the outside when you see him like walking back and forth on the roof.
Yeah,
like I really like that. Kind of like all the visual stuff, really.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Like, obviously, I said about the big sprites. The fact that they had such big sprites on the screen makes it a hell of a lot easier, especially if you're playing this on the original Game Boy, which you're tilting it to try and get the light on it. You can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's easy to see the enemies. It's easy to see the spikes, all that sort of stuff. Obviously, we said about the worlds. I think, let it not be said that, the Mario games, while I love, like, Super Mario Bros. 3 and you have the standard like grassland, desertland, waterland when they first kind of did it. As time's gone on, people will get very annoyed because it was very samey, but this game coming out when it did, having like, oh, you're inside a mechanical Mario, now you're inside like a big turtle thing for some reason, and now you're in a haunted house and you're in space, like the fact that you don't have those generic sort of here's grass, here's desert, here's a volcano like sort of thing, I think that actually goes a long way to helping this game feel different. And like you were saying, with the different enemies that you see, some enemies are only in certain worlds to try and give that vibe to it. Same with the bosses. The bosses themselves are only like very much themed to those worlds.
It gives it a sort of black sheep feel to it in a good way. Like Mario Brothers 2 was so different.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
And I think I think sometimes Mario games really benefit from doing something just odd.
Yeah.
And I think when we do come around to things that we dislike about the game, the one thing I can't say is that it's not an interesting game. Like the actual world design's interesting.
Kind of, it's like it gives it that kind of like Elseworld vibe to this game, where like it doesn't feel like it's trying to be like in the Mushroom Kingdom and stuff. It's got a very kind of fairy tale, dream-like feel to it. Like how you go get eaten by a turtle, and you get like in the sea. Yeah. And you get like
in a whale.
Yeah, there's like that submarine
thing,
broken thing, and it's like it's very like dreamlike how the stages kind of like connect and stuff.
It's sort of like
kind of like it.
Like kind of reminds me of like how Link's Awakening had like obscure like enemies and characters. And
dream world. Yeah,
that's the this is like the Mario version of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's really cool as well with like Macro Land, where you get shrunk down to the size of an ant. I've always been a big fan of stuff like that when it's like real world setting, but you're shrunk to the size so everything feels bigger. So you're like running through like the living room and all and you fight a rat that would normally be tiny to you, but it's obviously big. Then the fairy tale side of things, you fight the three little pigs. It's one of the boss fights, which is kind of cool. All of that sort of stuff, all the sort of the visual design, I think works really, really well. There are also unique ideas here as well, like the tree sap level and the same with the whale one, where you have these mechanics that only appear a handful of times in the game, where like the tree sap, you kind of like running through it. Same with the whales. Yeah, you've got a few levels like that where it's like, even the one with like you going up the fireplace chimney and stuff in one of the levels and stuff like that. So there's these cool use of where you are on the map, and they actually kind of mix that into the levels, and you kind of get that as well.
So just thinking, there's not many of them, but the auto scrollers are quite good. Like the first star level one and stuff like that. Like some of like the auto scrollers don't feel
they're
tedious.
not very long either.
No.
So, yeah. I actually, one of my personal favourites is the second space level where you are going through the star field. And I really like that because that again feels very unique. Has a unique piece of music that doesn't play anywhere else. has these star sprites, and it's like a maze you're going through, which I think was really cool. I think the game does that. There's these one-off levels throughout each world where you're like, oh, that's actually really cool. I guess the last thing is like the bunny ears as well. The bunny ears were new to this game. They do kind of break a lot of the levels, but I also kind of like appreciate the fact that you can also get to certain exits with it. Like, you still have the fire flower here, which you do need to use if you want to get to certain bonus levels. But the bunny ears are like, hey, here's a path that you can only take. It's full of coins. So if you've got the bunny ears, whoosh. And that kind of feels cool. Like, you're rewarded with a lot of money for actually having that power up at the right time. And I'm like, that sort of thing. Like, it's a small thing. It's a small change to the standard flight that you would have in other Mario games. It's more of a float than it is a flying mechanic. But I like it's also easy mode. So if somebody is struggling with a level, you can just like get some speed, hold the button down, and just zip through the level and hope for the best kind of thing.
Which just kind of breaks it. But then you could do that in Mario Bros. 3 anyway. So, and
like,
other games.
It's cool. It's cool to be able to have that option, really. But yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. The things we like, or things I like about it. So let's get to my favourite part. Things we don't like. Let's start with you, Mr. Mark. We'll go around again.
So for a game that's a 2D platformer that came out in the early 90s on a handheld, there's some expected jank. So there's some... I don't know if you can really criticise a game like if it was made back then like this, but
no,
it's kind of like... Yeah, there's some wonky hitboxes.
Oh my god, the hitboxes in this game, especially on the bosses.
Like, this is a common thing with older games, obviously. This happens on, other older Mario games, other platformers, other non-platformers, anything that came out in like the 80s and early 90s and beyond that.
Still this day.
Yeah, there's just parts where you feel like you've hit the enemy normally and you die.
Take a hit or something.
Slightly frustrating hitboxes that feel a bit unfair, and
a lot of the spikes are like that as well. Like visually, they look a certain way, but like they might have a bigger hitbox or something on them. It's like,
obviously that's a technical limitation. So it's an interesting, trying to criticize that is
but at the same time, you should never feel like there's a different thing for having a skill issue to something feeling unfair. And like, some of these hitboxes are just odd, and if you don't know, like, you have to almost learn. And you should, like, if you look at an enemy and you're like, I can jump on that enemy, and suddenly you hit it in a weird way and you take damage and it's still there, it's kind of like, that's not really my fault.
It does hinder the gameplay. There's also the lag.
Boy.
So when there's a lot of sprites on the screen or just a lot happening, there's some quite bad lag, and
Treacle.
I found that some of my jumps were delayed, and that would make me just fall, or
input eating.
Just kind of like the inputs were a bit affected by that, which can affect the game, like obviously your experience.
Oh my god, the final level with the spike spins, right? The slowdown at that point was crazy.
And there was a bit where you stand on the bomb and you got the chain thing, and then at the end it blows up. And there was a lot going on at that. I think there was quite a bit going on that one point. But various different levels where that would affect your gameplay. Some of the platforming was laid out in the levels, made it quite difficult in an unfair way.
Blind jumps,
yeah. Is what I was going to say. There are some blind jumps in the game. You can move the camera, but I don't feel like... I don't know. I feel like you shouldn't have to. But maybe that's there for a reason, and you're meant to kind of like look across. But blind jumps are a bit annoying. The music is quite limited in this game. There's essentially the main theme, and there's variations on the main theme, and then there's not much else. There's kind of like the invincibility music. There was a different piece of music for the last level, wasn't there?
Yes, that's a unique piece of music for that level.
But then almost all of the rest of it, or most of the rest of it, is like variations of the main theme,
except the boss level for the Star Maze. That's its own unique music as well.
And it was okay. It gave a kind of joyful-ish thing to
whimsical
the levels. Super Mario Land 1 had more variety, and that game came first and is older, and there was more music in that game, and it was better.
I don't know if there's more music, but each track was unique, so it was very different.
That's what I mean. It wasn't variations of one track. Like there was Birabuto Kingdom in that game, and then there was like, what's the one that starts with M? I can't remember. Muda Kingdom. And they were like, there wasn't a huge amount of music, but it was very different. Other than that, I don't. Yeah, just like the technical hiccup.
Dave, what was it you didn't like about it?
Whenever this game is like in motion, that's when the problems happen. Yeah, the lag spikes was annoying. Wasn't really much consistency. Fine, like I feel like to stop the lag, they like just zoomed in on this game. Like I feel like it was meant to be further back the camera. I feel like because it was lagging so much, they like went really close. Which is why it feels like a lot of the levels aren't designed to have the camera this close to the characters. Like all the blind jumps and like
that leaf level, wasn't it?
Yeah, and like when you do the house, or might be the pumpkin level, when you got like the blind drops and you can see like the lower levels.
Yeah.
It feels like if the camera was further back, you would be able to see them from the start, and like the light rays like hitting it. It's like they added the light rays in the background to show there's like a platform here, but you can't see it because the camera's so zoomed in.
Yeah.
Like it seems to be like it wasn't really designed to be this close to the camera. Then obviously these are blind jumps, not better to see enemies. The lag's also a big thing. Found the controls really hard. Found it hard to gauge when I'm doing like a small jump, a medium jump, or like a big jump. And like some of the, when you land on stuff, some like the lack of friction's kind of weird. So it's like you'll land on something and try and turn, and you just like keep sliding. Like everything's kind of slippery.
It is very much slippery, yeah.
And when you're big, trying to jump through like a big person gap, you end up just like not being able to do it.
It doesn't like fit properly,
Yeah, you have to like line up your jumps to like try and get through the gap, because like I feel like it wasn't designed to have you that big, so like you can't fit through
you for being big when you
like having to keep redoing the same jump to try and go through something.
Yeah,
I find the animation cycles on the enemies harsh, where it seems like hitboxes are like tied to like the beginning of like an animation change. It's like with the ants, like as soon as the spikes start coming out of the ant, like it will hurt you. Like it feels like as soon as the animation changes, it like instantly does like the kill box. The same with like the bullet bills, where it's like even if it's like just slightly out of the bullet bill cannon, it still hits you, which I find like really weird.
I think
it's quite brutal.
It's like to have enemies that switch between like the other insects that go like all shiny like flash. Like as soon as they start flashing, they hurt you, but you don't know it's changing to that skin change of it, like the color change. It just like happens. It's like, oh yeah, this doing this now, and it's like if you already jumped, you're like,
well, I'm fucked.
You don't get that like little like second or so for the animation change to like then know it's like dangerous to land on.
It's either on or off, isn't it, basically?
And same with like the piranha plants.
It's
kind of weird because when you're on the last level with the weird piranha plant firing ball things, they do have an in-between state where they have like the translucent state, which doesn't hurt you, then it comes solid and then it hurts you. So it seems like they had it on that one but not on like any of the other transition states of the enemies, which is a bit weird. And like some of the enemy, like the boss hitboxes are weird, where you can kind of just be stuck like in its hitbox, and like the downtime in a lot of the bosses is like really short. So you think, oh, it's flashing, I'll have like time to move, but you only got like a second sometimes, and it's like bam, you get hit. And you're just like, I'm still trying to get away from it, especially if you're underwater or something. You're like, or you're floating on the space level, you're like, I can't physically get away from you fast enough. It's pretty much just like any time this game's like in motion, like I feel like it just needed to cook a bit more. I don't know if it was like a rushed development or not, but it all seems like it was kind of rushed. They just didn't really know what to do with the lag, so they just made everything really big and the camera really close to try and avoid how many sprites are on the screen. But that's pretty much it. And obviously, the music's very repetitive. Not bad, but very repetitive and like very bland. Like the melodies are actually quite good. They're still going in my head at the moment. Like the melodies are quite strong, but
the main athletic theme,
the arrangement and stuff is very bland, repetitive. I guess we're all probably be saying the same things.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
yeah,
I'm not
back
gonna,
to you.
I'm not gonna, dwell on like the lag and the hitboxes. I think we've kind of covered that, and they are an issue. I don't think this game handles that well. I think Mario does kind of is a bit slippy and slidey, anyway.
It's like no
I
friction.
kept
It's
dying
really
in
weird.
embarrassing places.
Yeah, and also the jumping's really strange. If you don't know to hold up when you jump, like when in so many levels, if you hold up when you're in like the tree sap or in space and stuff, you get extra height. But I don't know. This might have been in the original manual. I have no idea. But like if you don't know that, like there's no way to know that you holding up actually will help make your jumps go higher. To be honest, where I land on it is I think the game is visually like has good ideas and stuff, but I think the way the game handles the obvious lag when there's a lot of sprites on screen and the way the hitboxes are probably like the worst things. And blind jumps, I hate blind jumps in anything. I don't think this game, like Dave was saying, was intended to have blind jumps, but they are there. And they do try to avoid it, but it's still an annoyance. It's just something you should never have in your game. You should always have something to indicate.
Another reason why I forgot about this, the reason why I don't think it was designed to be like this, is also when you press up and down, there's no like sprite change of Mario.
Yeah, you have a ducks.
Like he doesn't like, he's not like he looks upwards or anything. It's just that like the camera moves when there's extra space on like the y-axis, basically.
Yeah.
Which makes me feel like it wasn't intended, because I feel like they would have probably added animations for that.
Yeah,
to like show that like, because there's no visual feedback. If you're in a bit where like the camera height is the height of the y-axis there, nothing happens.
Yeah.
It's not like it like auto scrolls or something. So yeah, I feel like it's a bit rushed on that.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I mean, my biggest thing, and this is just like personal thing, is I think the music in this game is trash. Except for two songs. The Athletic theme, which is the very first level, that pops up. Like the actual main theme that everybody knows, I think that's really good. And I think the space music, when you're doing the Star Maze, is the other bit of music. Every other bit of music in this game is just fucking terrible.
What about the Starman music?
It's just like... It's
the
like
music's very bassy, which is weird.
But the Starman music really doesn't fit being invincible.
No, because
like,
what is it?
doesn't seem to go.
And it's like it's not the same as like.
I mean, it's like I know Super Mario Land 1 had the can, but
at least the can, you're like, you're like, quick
it's
run,
upbeat.
move.
Yeah, you have to move. Yeah,
like the original Starman theme is the reason why it works so well is because it's that very quick. And it gives you that vibe. Oh,
urgency,
urgency.
Run. Yeah.
And whereas this
then,
one,
to be fair, you can't really run in this game.
he does. He speeds up, but doesn't move that much quicker.
You can't really just run through a load of enemies because of how things are placed.
Unless you know the level, yeah. But the music is a huge disappointment for me on a personal level because it's just a lot of the alternate versions of that melody are just they're chipper. But they don't have much gusto behind it. Like, you move on to a level, it's like dun 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 dun.
Yeah. It's very catchy, but it's very
just subtle, isn't it?
Very like elevated music,
or
like radio jingle.
Yeah,
like it's very like it's catchy,
unoffensive. Yeah,
it's very major, but like it doesn't really do anything interesting.
I mean, even the boss music in this is so shit. It's like it starts off quite well because it's like and it does that, and then you get this like it's like really like unimportant.
All I know is the intro bit.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
At the end.
One thing that we kind of touched on the bosses, but pretty much all the bosses are the same in this game. They are literally they go from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen, and you jump on them. The most interesting one for me is probably the pigs because they kind of all do something different. But essentially, one rolls, one jumps, and one does this weird like pogo thing.
The octopus ones are interesting. It fires out the little octopus.
Yeah, like they have.
Stuff.
It's so easy to cheese these bosses. Like you can literally.
Actually, the witch one's probably my favourite with the cauldrons.
Yeah, like sets them up with the spikes on the.
That's quite a good one.
But it's just like, and I get it. Again, this is a handheld game. It's meant to be a pick up and play thing. This was a shorter experience. The visuals I like, the concepts I like, but in practice playing it, I'm like, I'd just rather play any other Mario game.
It is odd. Like the mechanics, like how the game actually works. It definitely just feels like it's rushed. It's like with the Starman thing, where it's like you kill 5 enemies and you can get a 1-up. It's like great, but it's hard to find more than 6 enemies within the time frame because it feels like maybe they wanted more like Super Mario Bros level of like loads of enemies. But when you do it, it's like it's really hard to find like 6 or 7 enemies you can actually hit within the time.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like, why did you make this mechanic?
Sometimes they put
Like,
the
it
Starman in
feels
weird
odd.
places, so you get the Starman, and by the time you've done it, you've gone into the water, and there's no chance you're
It's
going
like
to
it's
get
Yeah.
it.
impossible to hit more
There's
than
no
like 1 or
enemies.
2
Yeah,
enemies.
yeah.
It feels like there was meant to be more enemies and stuff
Yeah,
in this game.
yeah.
It's very weird.
So let's round it off then. Like, do we think this game holds up, and would we recommend it to people this day? Again, starting with you, Mr. Mark. What do you think?
It's an interesting question because I don't know if it's really aged, but then that might just mean that it wasn't a top tier Mario game to begin with. So does it hold up to where it was? Well, how high was it in 1993
Yeah.
compared to like the other Mario games that came out a few years before that, like Super Mario Bros. 3 and World, which are significantly better because they're on a home console and they're just more like technically better and everything. I enjoyed playing it, but it's like, even if this game got a remaster and they've fixed all the technical issues, made the hitboxes and the stutter better and everything, it would still probably be like a 7 out of 10 game. But then, was it a 7 out of 10 game to begin with anyway? So like in like 30 years ago. So I would not recommend this to someone now. If I was like showing somebody an older Mario game, I would get them to play Super Mario Bros. 1, 3, World.
Yeah.
If they wanted to get like a good experience of like a classic 2D Mario game, and probably get them to play Land 1 if it was a choice between these two. So I wouldn't recommend it. It probably doesn't hold up too badly from where it originally was, just because I was already aware of the technical stuff like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would recommend. I had fun playing it again. I wouldn't recommend playing it to like a new player. But it's still, it's still fun. I'm glad it exists. It's a part of my childhood. That's my overall feeling about it.
Yeah. Dave, what do you think?
Pretty much the same thing. Doesn't play well, but I'm pretty sure I was aware they didn't play well when I was playing it. So definitely use like the cheats.
Yeah.
To get more lives and that, and also like doing that last level died on that a lot with like the moving platforms and stuff. Like that last level is just like ridiculous, and there's like no real checkpoints either. Like that last level it feels like it's like designed to get your courses, but it's like it's the home console. Like it's not even like an arcade port. It's like, why are you rinsing my like 60 lives for no reason? And like the physics of the game are just not there. But as far as like weird, glitchy, poorly controlled retro games from the early 90s, it is probably higher tier than like a lot of the things I was playing on like the Mega Drive and stuff, and like
that's true.
other Game Boy games. It's better than like some of the awful stuff I used to play.
That's true. It probably is actually like comparably quite good compared to other early,
especially Game
platformers.
Boy games. Like
Yeah.
I played some utter trash on Game Boy like back in the day. I wouldn't give this to someone who was like new to like old Mario games, because like you said, there's already better Game Boy Mario games. Like just play Mario Bros 1, 2.
Anything else?
Yeah, they all pretty much are better, and then you might as well just play them on the actual NES as well, rather than playing the Game Boy versions. It's like, it reminds me of playing Sonic on Game Gear, and it's like, oh, it runs so bad.
It's like, this was
it was impressive at the time because it was in colour, but my god, it's so bad.
Batteries run out after an hour.
But I enjoyed playing it. Didn't realise, kind of forgot how much I remembered of this game.
Same,
Once we started doing it, I was like, oh, I remember like most of these levels. I definitely played this a lot. But don't think I ever really need to play it again myself.
So, I mean, this is going to offend someone, but this to me is one of the worst Mario games that exists. It is this and Mario 64 are at right at the bottom of the pile of Mario games for me. I don't think this game holds up. I don't think you need to play it. I think because the music sucks ass, the gameplay's pretty shit. If you're going to play Mario, you're going to play 3, you're going to play World, you're going to play some of the 3D ones. Like, even if you want to play something that's more like 2D, like the modern ones like New Super Mario Bros. Or Mario Wonder, all of these games are significantly better. Yes, this game has great ideas, and yes,
pretty harsh comparing this to Wonder.
No, I'm talking about like, if you want to play a 2D Mario game, there are so many better.
Give your
experiences.
8-year-old child this game instead of Mario Wonder for Christmas. And be like,
I've just never.
Not your 8-year-old child. You don't have one.
I have nostalgia for it. There are levels in this game that I like, but those are few and far between. And the lag and the way the game plays, and the terrible Starman music and the terrible music overall. It's just like this doesn't. There's apart from the visuals, there's not much charm to this game. Like in the way it plays or anything. I don't go, I might pick up Mario Brothers 3 and I'll play that once a week. I'd happily play that once a week. But this doesn't have any of that. I'd rather play the first Super Mario Land. Yeah, that game doesn't play very well either, but the music is more interesting. I prefer the levels and stuff like that. And to be honest, would I give this to somebody as a Game Boy game to play over any other Mario game? It's just the answer is no. Like straight up, it's just no. If you have curiosity of playing this, cool. But I don't think it holds up, and I definitely wouldn't recommend it to anybody. I think there are just better games out there. And, once the Game Boy Advance came around, that was such a huge step that like all the Mario games that then came to that are significantly better than this. There are just better games.
Yeah. I still think it was absolutely awful compared to what was out at the time.
No,
other than,
for sure.
It definitely doesn't feel like a Mario. It feels more like a third-party Game Boy game. Like a Mario game, it seems a bit weird. Like it definitely feels like it's less than like the Super Mario Bros. And all those other games.
It feels like they gave the development to the B team and just said like, see what you can do.
Or like it was like a rush to get something on the shelves for that Christmas or something. Like it feels like it's not baked completely. Like it feels half baked. A lot of the actual game. I think that's why the visuals are so good compared to like the actual controls and music and everything else.
I think that both Super Mario Land and Super Mario Land 2, if they decided to do a small budget like remakes of both of these, slap them together in a package, I think then I'd be more interested in revisiting this with the camera pulled out, no lag, added content, all that sort of stuff. But as it stands, this is the game that we've got. It's on Nintendo NSO. It's if you got it on Game Boy, whatever. It's just a game that like there's some cool ideas there, but in terms of playing like any other, comparing it just to other Mario games, the other Mario games are probably going to be better. You're probably going to have a better time with them, just because this game just doesn't have that feel that like when you play like Super Mario Bros. 1, 3 World, there's a feel to it where you feel like you're always in control. Most of the time when you fuck up, it's your own problem. This doesn't have that, and I think that alone is why I'd be like, don't touch this game. Go and play something else that just handles better. And ultimately that's where I land on it, and it's crazy. I know this is probably some of their best memories playing on a Game Boy, and you're right, it's probably better than 90% of stuff on the Game Boy, but just comparing it to Mario games, I think this is just don't waste your time. Go and play something else. Like there are just better platformers out there, so that's kind of where I've landed on it.
It is interesting as someone who has no real interest in platformers. It's kind of interesting playing this again.
Yeah, I was surprised that you played it as a kid actually, because you were never a Mario person or a platformer person.
Sonic.
This was probably actually no, Super Mario Bros. 1 on the Game Boy is probably what I got first.
Yeah.
This is probably like my second or third Mario game I ever actually owned. Since I never had a Nintendo. The first Nintendo like home console I had was the GameCube.
Yeah.
So it's like way
Sunshine.
later.
Yeah.
So like this is probably like one of my main Mario memories is 1 and 2 of this.
Yeah, I mean, I am taking it as of the context of when the game came out, but obviously I now have the context of where games have gone, where Mario games specifically have progressed, and it's like, even if you compare it to something like New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, like that game just handles better, it has more interesting ideas. Alright, it's a bit generic, like grass, desert, all that, but as a game, I'm like, here, play. If you've never played a Mario game, here's a nice point to start. Not this crazy weird game that is like running through treacle and then suddenly you're on skates and bizarre little thing. I mean, I'm glad it exists, but I'm just
I
like,
think if the handling was better, I could probably be more
positive on it.
Yeah, like if it handled better, like the game engine physics worked better, I'd probably be more like lenient on it.
But yeah, I mean, I think we've pretty much covered everything. I think a lot of people our age probably did play this as a kid and probably still remember it.
It's weird, isn't it? It's one of those games that like everyone like had.
Yeah.
But like I don't think it was a game that like it was like a religiously thing. It's not like a Pokemon or something where you were like, oh my god, this is amazing. I can remember going to the shop and buying it. It's one of those games that just like appears in your like collection as a kid, and you're like, you don't really know when I actually got this.
Yeah.
It's like it was just there, and I played it a lot. Like I don't really know. I don't think I was ever excited for it. Yeah, like it just kind of appeared one day.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If I look through my like Game Boy collection, I've got a copy of this, and then I got bright yellow cartridges. I got like Donkey Kong Land and stuff like that. So there's like a certain section.
Pokemon
of, like,
Yellow.
a certain section of like.
I don't remember requesting these games from like my parents.
Just appear, don't they? It's like some auntie or something like got it for me.
Yeah.
It's like second hand or something for
Mario.
birthday or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels like one of those games where it's like I don't think this is ever on my radar, especially because I wasn't really attached to Mario,
Yeah.
especially then, because he definitely was more of a Sega player.
Yeah. But there we go. There's our thoughts and feelings on Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. Some harsher than others.
Should have been 8 coins.
But thank you very much for listeners to us rambling on, as always. If you like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content like this, I say see more content like this. Maybe in a year's time, who knows?
I was about to say, they can't see us, they can only hear us.
They can only hear us, but if you want to see more retro reminiscences, we will hopefully get back to doing that. Hit the subscribe button, and then links for Facebook, Twitter down below in the description below. All that's left to say is it's goodbye from myself, and it's goodbye from these lovely gentlemen.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.